Now, President Trump seems to be very upset that he didn't receive an endorsement from the International Association of Firefighters. Now, for some reason, the Firefighters Union endorsement actually went to Joe Biden. I'm not sure why they did that, considering how Bernie Sanders is literally the most pro-union person in the race. But nonetheless, Donald Trump was very upset. By the way, Bernie Sanders, not super upset. And so there's a huge, huge difference there. And Trump decided to go after the union itself in an angry tweet. He said, quote, "I've done more for firefighters than this deuce-sucking union will ever do, and I get paid zero." Really? Really? Now, that's fascinating because what has he actually done for the firefighters? What has he done for literally any union? Oh, right. Nothing. And nonetheless, he started furiously retweeting responses from his fans and supporters. One of them said, "This firefighter won't be voting for Creepy Joe. The rank and file know who has their back, and remember, no one knows who you vote for." Okay. Then some other more tweets here. "Stick in the eye by the union. Trump has worked very hard for our first responders and union members, fighting very hard to bring back manufacturing, fighting hard against trade deals that have destroyed thousands of American jobs." Okay, but here's the thing. Yes, I gave him credit for TPP. I won't take that back, right? Because he killed TPP. TPP would have actually hurt union jobs. Now, since then, right, what has Trump actually done? What else has he done? Oh, but Jeff, he renegotiated NAFTA. And guess what? NAFTA, old or new NAFTA, is pretty much the same as old NAFTA. So, okay, well, what about... Yeah, but he brought back manufacturing jobs. No, he didn't. No, many of the places that Trump had hyped up ended up laying people off almost soon after. Especially after they passed a giant tax cuts for the rich, that pretty much all that money went into stock buybacks. A lot of these places, manufacturing plants that were touted, for example, I believe it was at one in Wisconsin, and as well as Indiana, right, where Mike Pence had went to. A lot of them actually shed jobs. And Harley Davidson closed down a plant. You also had Chevy closing down the Lordstown plant in Ohio, and then shedding a whole bunch of jobs, shutting down the assembly lines for where they do like their Chevy Cruises and stuff. They shut those down and moved those to Mexico. What manufacturing jobs is Trump bringing back? Really? Not only that, but okay, first responders, right? Because we're actually talking about firefighters here, so first responders would be on that list, along with medical professionals, EMTs and police officers, right? So now, what has he done for first responders? Literally nothing. Nothing for the unions, right? And nothing for the actual first responders. Right now, the GOP still will not authorize medical care for 9/11 first responders. 9/11 first responders. Those are the people that Jon Stewart, after no longer working for The Daily Show, has had to shame Congress into doing things for years ago. And they still won't do it. They still won't authorize continuous medical care for the people that were at ground zero on 9/11. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? And look, what's Trump got to do with that? Well, he's got the bully pulpit. He could say things. If he cared about the first responders in 9/11, he would say, we must get these people medical care. Hey, fellow Republicans in Congress, get them medical care and do it now. That's all he would have to do, is he just have to go out and talk about it. And then people could say, well, it's up to the Republicans to listen to him or not. But at least he came out, and at least it was forceful, and he was strong about it. But what did he do? Absolutely nothing. Not only that, but as far as unions are concerned, Republicans continue to push right-to-work legislation, which destroys unions, and Donald Trump, he is in favor of doing that. But there's more tweets here. Catherine Schaefer, Trump fan, says, The statement is like so many others, liberal lies. Why would the military emergency workers support a candidate who party disrespects everything about their cause? Wait, what? Since when of the Democrats are against the military or emergency workers? In fact, I would argue that the Democrats are extremely pro-military, too much so. I remember when there was an anti-war faction within the Democratic Party that was incredibly strong. Now, yes, there's a lot of people who are anti-war, progressives, but it's not a big, strong part of the Democratic Party. In fact, the Democratic Party right now is too pro-war, too pro-defense. They continue to vote for massive increases in the defense budget, which is insanity. No, these people are completely delusional. One more. Dan Kaida says, the unions have become corporations representing themselves. Our president represents the people. Wait, the unions are corporations now? What in the hell? I can't, dude. I can't. Now, look, you want to have problems with union leadership and unelected boards. I'm with you. I complained about that same thing back in 2016 when there were endorsements, important union endorsements, that did not represent the will of the union workers. Now, for example, a lot of these union workers had voted to endorse Bernie Sanders. However, these union boards ended up voting in favor of Hillary Clinton, who was also not very pro-union. Okay, so that's a problem, right? And I've documented that, and that's an issue. But nonetheless, right, endorsing Joe Biden is not the direction it would go. But neither is endorsing Donald Trump. That's ridiculous. Now, Joe Biden himself is not very pro-worker. I know he's got this sort of mythology surrounding him that, oh no, what are you talking about? Joe Biden he's a regular blue-collar man. No, he's not. No, he's corporate establishment and has supported anti-worker legislation. Let me give you an example. During the time that he was vice president, he went along with President Obama's plan that ended up cutting pensions for Teamsters. Yeah. More. According to The Intercept, former President Barack Obama had signed something called the Multi-Employer Pension Reform Act of 2014 into law as part of an omnibus spending bill that also rolled back some of Dodd-Frank consumer protection regulations on Wall Street and had lifted limits on campaign contributions to national political parties. So that wasn't a Republican bill. That was a Democratic bill, right? That was part of the omnibus spending bill. Now, the measure that I'm pointing out specifically allows sponsors of pension plans who can demonstrate they're in declining or critical financial condition to cut promised workers' benefits in order to remain solvent. Thanks to that Obama-era law, members of the Teamsters Local 249 are facing up to 30% reductions in their retirement benefits. Now, wait a minute here. You might say, well, come on, Jeff. It just makes sense. They don't have the money to pay these pensions out. These companies don't. How's that the workers' fault? No. You made a promise to pay those pensions. You pay those pensions. And see, the problem that we've seen here is that some of these companies, let me give you an example, Sears, right? Great example. Sears mismanaged itself out of business, nearly, right? I think they got bought out by someone else at this point. Venture capital firms, I think. But Sears mismanaged itself, right? So how's that the fault of the worker, not, who, worked there, loyal for years, for decades, and long enough to get a pension, right? How's it fair to cut the guy's pension? Especially when, in a lot of these cases, where they end up cutting pensions, the executives still end up having a golden parachute. That's not fair. That's not fair. And Joe Biden was in favor of that. You know who was against that? Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. I think there are some other 2020 Democratic contenders that are also against that. And so, you have progressive support. You also have people like Sherrod Brown, who were not in favor of that piece of legislation during the Obama era and fought against it. And so I want to give all those people credit who did fight against this. It might even be Kirsten Gillibrand. Might also have been, although I'm not 100% sure, she might have actually been on the other side. So I'll have to go and double check that. But there were a lot of people that were against this 2014 legislation, mainly, for example, progressives like Bernie Sanders. So, but anyway, more proof that Joe Biden is anti-union. You also had Biden kicking off his fundraiser with a couple of union busters, David Cohen and Steve Kozin. And so, look, part of his fundraiser was at the home of the Comcast CEO, union busters. So Biden is no friend to unions, and certainly neither is Donald Trump. They're not quite the same, obviously. However, they both tend to represent the interests of large corporations and the wealthy instead of workers. So be warned. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.